we got no games. No games. So, this is an analysis stream with no games to analyze. Oops. And here we are. All right. Welcome, Roland Sun. So, I brought a game of my own. Pondo, would you like to? So, I brought a game of my own. We can analyze at some point. I just turned off the air conditioner. Okay. And then another game. I thought we'll add another game. Not a game of my own. A game I put in of my own free will to analyze, not my games. I gotta find my glasses. Shit. Oh no. Can I read without glasses? This is gonna be a disaster. Wait a second. Glasses. Wow. I don't know about that, bro. Seriously? This could be a problem. If I can't read, I am screwed. Mr. Glasses, where are you? Where did I put these things? Uh-oh. Now we're in real trouble. There? Nope, not there. Not there. I don't know, where did I put my glasses? Guys, where are my glasses? I can't see without them. Oh, this is bad. This is bad. This is really bad. Where I put them? It's weird. Okay. I'm getting so old. I'm getting so old I can't find my glasses. Oh. I need a magnifier. Oh no. This is weird. I don't know. Where did I put it? Very strange. Very strange. Don't remember. I don't know where I put my glasses. Anyway, try to do without. Not a lot of light in here either. Oh, what? Where do I put the games? Games. Just you have several options. Discord isn't great. Either you send it to me on Lichess, or you put it here, a link here, in Twitch. Easy. Put the link in Twitch, whatever, or put it on a message on Lichess. If you got a game. I don't know where everybody is. It's the last week of summer, so the tournament yesterday. Oh wait, I need to activate our stream on Lichess. No, I'm streaming. Okay. So sometimes it's like hit or miss. Sometimes it's working. Sometimes it's not working. I don't understand why. We had a very bad result for the tournament yesterday. Only 8 players played. I know people don't like Swisses, but that's the weakest result ever. Maybe my glasses are in a different place. Let's see. I don't know. I can't find them, man. Well, alright. We're going to have to make do without them. I can almost read. I think we can make it out. I'm dying here. Alright. Steinitz Lasker. Steinitz Lasker. How about a nice Steinitz Lasker, huh? Wow. Let's add a Steinitz Lasker. Moscow, 1896. Add a new chapter. Keep it recent. Dr. E. Not to be confused with Edward Lasker. World champion Emanuel Lasker. All right. Moscow. We're going to go real classical today. 1896. Now, I understand there was a tournament in St. Petersburg. Was that 1896 or 1898? The big tournament in St. Petersburg. I can't remember. 1896, 98. So this is a match game. World Championship match. Let me see. Second World Championship match. Moscow. 1896. Okay. All right. So create chapter. You can start with this one. What did I say? Game. This is game number 11. Game 11. Move 11. This is a game I haven't looked at in a long time. I'm not sure which game this is. So a lot of games when I present them here on the stream. Again, if you guys want to send me, oh, Antonio's there. You're sitting in a game, but it's not very good. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm delving into classical chess, and since most people don't focus on it, I feel like I want to, do what other people don't and focus on the classics. And the classics there's so much that I don't know. So I've got a game I do know, which I've analyzed, Gunsberg versus Chigorin. And that is from 1898, I believe. No, 1890. And Steinitz versus Lasker, game 11, 1896. So those are both from the 1890s. You guys are welcome. If you are subscribers, you're welcome to submit games. As I told Mr. Rolandson, not Discord. Preferably send me a message on Lichess or put it in Twitch. All right. I have really bad neck, shoulder muscle problem. I don't know. It's been 3 weeks now. All right. So first of all, we'll do this Lasker. Steinitz Lasker World Championship match, 1896, Moscow, game 11. All right. Lucky 11. Let me do this one. Alrighty. So I need a paper to hold my place. How about my tax refund? This is another paper here. Alright. So I can barely see, but if I focus, I can see. So Steinitz is white. And this is going to be an end game. All right, Steinitz is white. We're Emanuel Lasker. We're playing black against world champion Wilhelm Steinitz. It is D4. It is 1896 Steinitz playing D4. We're Emanuel Lasker. So D4, D5, as Lasker mostly did play Queen's Gambit decline type stuff. Steinitz was C4, not screwing around. Slav wasn't popular yet, so E6, supporting the center. Knight to C3. I just want to make a footnote that, Steinitz, of course, was much more knowledgeable, and everyone was more knowledgeable of E4 in those days. But D4 was becoming more popular. I'm not a huge chess historian. Again, this is 1896 World Championship match. Just saying, you played, E4, mostly E4 your whole life. I don't think your D4 game is going to be quite as strong. So, Knight C3, Knight F6, Bishop G5, the most aggressive move. And now Lasker plays Bishop E7. Nothing fancy, you know. Obviously the Cambridge Springs, you know, is pretty old. I don't know. It would be interesting to know, for example, when when the Cambridge Springs defense, you know, was originated, right, on BD7. Very possible it was already known back in the day in 1896. I don't know exactly. Maybe older. But anyway, Lasker with the solid bishop e7. So the first thing we want to think about is the fact that there is a variation of this opening that's named after Emanuel Lasker. And I wonder why that is, right? So there's a Lasker variation of the orthodox, I don't know if we call it orthodox Queen's Gambit, but let's say Queen's Gambit decline. The Lasker variation will feature h6, usually castles, and knight e4. Will we see that here? Well, I'm sure that Lasker played other variations besides that, but there's a reason why it's named that. Anyway, so e3. White doesn't commit the knight, you know, to f3 necessarily, which I think is flexible. And now Lasker castles. So h6 is a very popular alternative. White will almost always play bishop h4. Welcome, guys. Antonio, good to see you. Feel free to send a game, man. I don't have many games. So good or not, if there's a game you'd like to look at, by all means, send it to me. I got nothing from you guys. So, castles. And now, a really shocking move, as far as I'm concerned, by White. Here's a move I maybe never excuse me, but I don't really play the Queen's Gambit decline much. Very rare move by Steinitz now. But a cool move nonetheless. I question its validity to some degree, but why not? Queen b3. So check it out. Franz Hosel, the Austrian IM, and Mihai Suba, the deceased, great, recently deceased, last year or two, from Romania, of course, legendary grandmaster. Queen b3. Very interesting. Played by Steinitz and only two others in the recorded database here. Probably not a great move because it has flaws, but at the same time, in this very standard Queen's Gambit position, it's like unbelievable. I would argue like practically unbelievable that there are only two games with this move. That you would say, well, if it was like the Grunfeld or something, this is a totally normal thing to do. You're putting pressure on d5. You're threatening to win a pawn with bishop takes f6 and takes on d5. How can it be bad? Well, it can be bad because hyper-modern counterplay here for black could expose the queen to danger, and ultimately, it's maybe not the most constructive move in the world. I mean, is White seriously considering castling queenside? Let's just put it this way. It happens in the Queen's Gambit. It's extremely risky because you've moved your C and D pawns up. Lasker tends to be a kind of stodgy defender. So maybe you could get away with it, but I don't think he's necessarily going to queenside castle because he played queen b3. Now, Lasker, interesting here. I mean, I'm really not sure what to play. There are two schools of thought on this position. You know, I can give up the center or try to just, you know, maintain d5 deep, right? I was actually expecting Lasker to play c6. c6 was played by Franz Hosel's opponent in 2006. And it's a 2200. But I mean, it looks solid. I would not at all be surprised to see c6. Another possibility for black that wasn't played here is the hyper aggressive c5, sacrificing a pawn. You know, we could theoretically play c5. So, oh, there's also the strange move. Wow, knight on bd7. So Ikeyov is a very strong player from Bulgaria, Grandmaster. He actually played knight on bd7 here. In fact, maintaining d5 with a weird sort of tactical motif, like a Cambridge Springs type of thing. So here he's able to play knight d7, develop, and d5 still not really hanging because of the tactics. So speaking of tactics and sandwiches, is d5 really threatened? No, exactly. No, that's what Ikeyov did. I mean, I still think there's a good case for c6 though, which was played by Hosel's opponent. It's a solid move. You maintain d5. Just because you played c6 doesn't mean you can't play c5 later if white decides to go crazy and castle or queenside or something. And you got these solid plans like b6, bishop a6, whatever. So, as far as I'm concerned, all moves are on the table here. Even like the crazy c5. So Lasker, let me delete this. Lasker plays d takes c4. Boom! Now, this is a concession. We're giving up our strong point on d5, but we get... What do we get in return? Helping white with development? But seriously, we get a tight pawn structure, no weaknesses, and we get to play against the queen on b3. You know, white could take the queen on c4, but I expect that to be very unlikely. The queen is still exposed on c4. We then have stuff like b6, bishop a6, etc. It's legal, but we expect white to play bishop takes c4. Anyway, I could debate this for hours, you know. Personally, I would probably maintain the d5 point. And interestingly, both players did in these other games. So Steinitz and Lasker. Lasker plays d takes c4. Bishop takes c4. So, nothing fancy now. Lasker just says, okay, fine, I'm going to destroy your center. And the following move, it's a little tricky because you could have to ask some questions about this, but I mean, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, takes here, and that pawn is pretty weak. I don't think he's going to be able to hang on to that. But again, there are questions like takes. How do we recoup this pawn? Do we play this? I'm not exactly sure how we're going to get the pawn back if white decides to take on c5. Probably he's very likely to consider taking on c5. He has a lot of moves too. So let's see what happens anyway. It's a long game. I'm not going to take forever. All right. So he does take. And we have these tactics, you know, like attacking the queen and stuff. But Lasker, he doesn't do anything fancy here. Bishop takes c5 is a concession, so he goes here, attacking the pawn with the knight, developing compact, threatening knight takes c5. White has traps with c6. This is a very standard type of thing, right? You could play c6, try to worsen black's structure. Steinitz does play c6, worsening black structure. B takes c6, and so now we have this weak pawn on c6. But white's queen is on b3. Our bishop has squares. We have the b file, possibly. We have good control of d5. So we have tons of compensation for the fact that we have the slightly worse structure. All right. And white is definitely not castling queenside. Knight of bd7, c6 takes. Now he develops with knight f3. And now Queen on b3 is misplaced. So we don't necessarily want to just jump and attack it for the sake of attacking it. I'm not exactly sure what we should do here. Rook b8, queen c2. What else can black do? Black can play c5 at some point, like Uncle Yermo playing the Caro-Kann, you know, and plan to develop his bishop to the a8, h1 diagonal. So I don't know. I mean, also, like, black could play, for example, knight to d5 and just swap a bunch of pieces. I mean, white's hoping that this pawn could prove to be a weakness in the long run. It's possible that it will, like knight d4 or something. So I'm not sure swapping pieces is the greatest choice. Whatever. Guys, ask away if there's a question. B takes c, knight f3. He does it. Oh my god. Yeah. I was expecting black here to play a little more sharply. But I'm easier said than done. If we don't play knight d5, what exactly do we do? It's not easy to say. I want to see what the engine would do. Yeah, it goes rook b8. Black has so many choices here. Rook b8, queen b6. I mean, queen b6, why can't trade queens and fix the structure? You know, for example. c5. I don't think this looks a little awkward. Like knight c5 and then your knight is where is it going after that? I think that's probably the worst choice. So Lasker does this like solid trading of pieces. Bishop e7, queen e7, and now Steinitz castles kingside. The Steinitz position is solid. Both sides are solid except for that pawn. Now rook b8, but I just want to comment on the fact that in this type of situation, rook b8 is like the most obvious move, and the queen on b3 can be attacked at any time, so we don't necessarily want to do that. If this was like a modern grandmaster, I mean, who knows? They'd be considering a lot of different moves, even a5. He plays rook b8, so see if we can really get anything out of this game. Queen c2. And now I have to be really careful not to make any sort of mistakes in reading because my vision sucks. So queen b4. Very, very forcing, very straightforward move. Queen b4. Steinitz Lasker World Championship game, number 11. Moscow, 1896. So check this out. This is funny. All right. These guys are such interesting, you know, world champions. Hold on a second. I'm going to put that game that was in the study there. I'm going to put the game you sent me in the study. One moment. Here. This is Mr. Rowlandson, right? Magniac. Study. There. All right, we got that one. And then we got a message from, I assume, Morales. No, Move 11 submitting a game. All right. Get PGN. Alushta Open. Go Russia! Copy. Just kidding. We don't support Russia here. Study. Line studies here. A lot of games from Russia today. Add a new chapter. How do I add a new chapter? There it is. Duh. Okay. So we're going to get back to the game here in a moment. Thanks, Move11. Guys, don't forget to subscribe. If you subscribe, you can donate. No, if you subscribe, you can donate a game. Not money, but a game. Donate a game to our content. All right. So anyway, here we are. My old friend Andrei Kovalev. Draw. All right. Anyway, the Belarusian Grandmaster. Or is he the young one? There's 2 Kovlevs. So anyway, game 11, move 11. The following move, bro. Sorry. Here. We're up to move 11. Queen b4. What would you play in this position? Knight a4. Knight a4 has something going for it. I mean, it's helping to control the c file and like maybe potentially like blockade that. We keep c4 protected. This is protected. The problem is Lasker can trade more pieces, like knight there. Looks like there's some in-between move. No, there's no a3. So, yeah, this probably equalizes. At least. What else can white do? White has a lot of moves, but none of them are great. I mean, bishop e3, knight c5. Rook b1 hangs the knight, so that hangs the bishop. The bishop's hanging. This is a problem. Taking, obviously, white is like just losing after that. Bishop here. Knight c5. Clear advantage to black. Maybe you could play bishop d3, actually. Maybe it's not that bad, but I don't like it for white. So check out what he does. He plays knight d1. Bro, this is very awkward for white. The Sinus is famous for, like, retreating, defensive retreating moves. Knight d1 with white in the Queen's Gambit. Psychological battle. Black is surprisingly comfortable here, despite the bad structure. I don't love white's knight d1. Very awkward. So now another weird-looking move, but what can you do about it? Bishop b7. Blocking our play on the b file, which is probably nothing, because white can play b3 anyway. This will eventually come to life, and we can play rook c8 or something. Bishop b7. It's a long game, so I'm going to go a little bit faster. Did I? Yeah, oh man, this is so ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. Science is so ridiculous. He's amazing. Knight e1. Raise your hand if you would have played knight e1. Wow. Comment on this move. Make main line. All right. Knight e1. Not the first move that came to mind. I really have to be careful not to make a notation mistake. Now, black played rook f d8. I still think that black is fine, and the activity of the pieces is more important than the structure. Just my opinion. Knight d3. Now black to move. Queen is attacked. Which square do we go to? I would say, no, default is like e7. Default moves are like probably e7 and b6. But he chooses, interestingly, queen d6, which, by the way, you know, under normal circumstances, I would think, like, you know, we'd be seeing a rook coming into the d file, but with a knight on d1, you know. Any questions, Mr. Rowlandson? Questionson? So queen d6, f3, dark square, weakness. I mean, he's blunting the future prospects for this bishop on b7, but at the same time weakening his dark squares. f3. And now knight on 7 to b6. Well, I still love black. All of black's pieces look, they're like, look at this. Look at these guys. Dude, it's like a horde of enemy tanks coming at you. There's 6 pieces. 6 pieces, all functioning. And White's sitting there with his like rooks. He's like taking a piss with his pants down. I mean, dude, 6 pieces coming at you. I'm getting a little concerned here. Knight b6, and then what happens next? Boy, Steinitz wasn't looking good in this game. I think he should have stuck to e4. What happened next? Oh! Hell, I fell down. Oh! I fell out of my chair. Oh my god, I fell out of my chair. So, alright. Next. The horrifying bishop takes d5. Let's say it was a practical decision. This is literally, I have a name for this move. Bishop takes d5. It's the fell out of the chair variation. It happened to me several times. The 3xx. Several times where I literally almost fell or literally fell out of my chair when my opponent made this move. Because I'm like, there's no way that guy's going to play that. There's no way they're going to do that. Giving up their bishop for the knight and fixing black's pawn structure at the same time. This is unbelievable. Steinitz, like, maybe he was he drinking? I mean, I don't know. I admit, like, I already don't like White's position. He's coagulated. It's like awkward. It's hard to find a good move. There are tactics, by the way. Like, if you go here, this knight on d3 is hanging, so immediately you're losing a pawn with knight takes e3. It's not like this is easy. He got himself into an awkward situation already. But man, okay, so bishop takes d5. So basically his position is so bad that he has to make this horrible move to, like, not lose material. Now takes, there goes the c file. b3, controlling the c4 outpost. Black is clearly better. Very quickly, after like less than 20 moves. Steinitz again, why didn't you just play e4, bro? Okay, b3, e5. e5 is a little risky because, you don't have to play e5. The c file might be preferred. Maybe Capablanca would have made a different move. I don't know. Bishop a6 is very strong. There's also the possibility of d4, but I guess that move maybe simplifies. We can also blockade with e4. So there's a lot of choices. Black goes e5. Now these pawns are very strong. The c file isn't going anywhere. The idea of bishop a6 isn't going anywhere. This still is possible. In my opinion, like, black is like plus 1 point something. e5, steamrolling white. Now, knight on 1 to f2. You're in trouble if you have to write down knight on 1 to f2 at move 19. Black clearly playing for the win here. Rook on b8. Because what future does it have on the b file? Rook on b8. Now queen b2. He actually found the safe square for the queen, at least. Attacking e5. And now f6. Dark square, pawns, coordinate with light square bishop. So far, I really like Lasker. Lasker's playing this game. He's like outclassing Steinitz. f6, rook on fd1. Okay, but we have to qualify the fact that Steinitz, he was a great defender. And so he's got himself a bad position with white. But, I mean, if he was like black or something, this would be normal. He's white and he's got a defensive position. Okay, rook on fd1. And now, well, black has to come up with a plan, right? How do we improve our position? We have the strong center. It looks like stronger minor piece, redundant knights for white. But how do you win? You know, I mean, you're going to shove this d pawn down white's throat, and he's going to resign. You could push the pawn. Like, this definitely is a consideration. Just push the pawn. But I think, honestly, after takes, it's also like this knight. I don't love this knight because we can't put it on d5. I would love to stick it on c3. White resigns, but I mean, it's not clear exactly how easily we can make progress here. There's also the move e4, which gets tricky because of the d4 square. So the point is, like, it's not easy for Lasker to make progress. I would expect, you know, many players to play something solid like rook c7, rook c1, you know, double the rooks. We're going to trade pieces. And white gets a little closer to a draw every time we trade some pieces or something. But black remains with the edge. But Lasker doesn't do that here. It's interesting. What he does is maneuver the bad piece, his worst piece. This is actually the advice of a lot of great players, of course. If you don't know what to do, improve your worst piece. So Lasker decides his worst piece is the knight on b6. It has no outpost because of the b3 pawn, and it's having trouble getting the d5. It would be great on d5. So he plays knight d7. What's the plan with knight d7? Well, there's a couple plans. There's this. He can swing across here to b6. It looks like that is part of it. Getting out of the way for the queen. So it's not just about the knight itself. I mean, I'm not really... It's slow, but I mean, obviously you have knight f8, knight e6, supporting d4. And everything's coordinated. Yes. The 3XX said that, and you're right. That's definitely part of the plan. But I think the queen b6 is important too. So knight d7. I have not looked at this game, and if I did, it was a long time ago. I probably did a long time ago. But something's wrong. Knight f2 here, f6, rook fd1, knight d7. Shit. So I messed up the notation already? Bishop takes d5, cd5, b3, e5. Sorry, I don't have my glasses. Shit. I don't understand. Rook fc1. Okay. I messed up. My bad. Okay, my bad. No major damage has been done, but I overlooked a move. Alright. So f6 was played. But white didn't play rook fd1 first. He didn't play rook fd1 at all. He played rook fc1. Alright, so let's go from here. White did not play rook on fd1. I misread the move. It's rook fc1. I need glasses. I can't find them. Can't find my glasses. I'm sorry. He played rook on fc1. Aiming to trade pieces. Okay. And then black did knight d7. Here we are. Same plan. The rook's on c1, not on d1. He plays knight d7. White swaps pieces. Rook takes. Rook takes. Rook takes. Rook where? So now rook c1. Yeah, I mean, Sinus is just trying to trade pieces, get closer to a draw. Rook c1, and then what did we say? Queen b6, x-raying this diagonal. That's one of the ideas with knight d7. Queen b6, rook takes c8. So Sinus is, he's, hoovering the pieces off the board, trying to get a draw, but he's worse. He's much worse. Rook takes, bishop takes. Can he get a draw with white? What an achievement. So takes, queen d2, defending the pawn. How much better is black here? Like, seriously. That's the thing. You got a good endgame with two world champions. I mean, okay, Lasker wasn't world champion yet, but here we are. I think that black is significantly better, like 0.8 or something like that. Maybe it's maybe it was a mistake by Lasker to trade all the rooks. I don't know. You know, it makes me wonder actually. So this rook situation, right? When he goes 97, what else can you do? Okay, takes here. If black tries to avoid the exchange of rooks, in this position, perhaps, it's a Grunfeld, in my opinion. You know, ceding the c file to white. Not sure we can get away with it. Okay, so there go the rooks. White's hanging on. Rook takes. Queen d2. Bishop b7 defending d5. And now king f1. There is no safety on f1, but I think e1 maybe. He wants to get to e1. King f1. Because the king isn't safe on this diagonal, and it's not safe on this diagonal either, but probably e1 is relatively safe. He'd like to get it to maybe d2, offer trade of queens or something. King f1, reasonable move. Now knight f8, as we anticipated. And he goes for the queen exchange, queen b4. Uh-oh, that's hanging. So he sidestepped any kind of tricks. We got to trade queens or play queen c7. And then there's like queen c5. So we get an endgame. Queen takes b4, knight takes b4. And black is better. Now, if white was a computer, maybe they could get a draw. All right. King f7. This is a long game I chose, but whatever. Knight on fd3. Boy, those knights are always redundant. Knight e6. King is best here on d6. King e2. King e7, obviously heading for d6. King d2, king d6. Bishops are better than knights. And those redundant knights look really stupid. They don't have an outpost. This is an instructive endgame. King d6, now king c3. And you have to ask yourself, king c3. Not an easy position for white to come up with a plan. You know, I'm not sure that king c3 really helps much. g5, bro. Brah. The bishop would be better placed on e6? Unclear. I mean, there are a couple pawns on this diagonal. You know, it isn't easy to say. In a vacuum, you could say, well, yeah, the bishop is looking both ways on e6. But I mean, clearly in this particular moment, it looks like this d4 could happen. We could very easily see levers with g4. Maybe this is coming down here. I think eyeing those pawns on the diagonal accounts for a lot. Stein says he can't be happy about these pawns being fixed on light squares. After g5, white plays knight c2. And what's he going to do? Like king d4, king a5 or something? His queenside majority doesn't help much. Now bishop a6. He does move the bishop, but to this diagonal. No real threat per se. Bishop a6, b4. Bishop outpost, anyone? b4. Now check this out. Bishop b5. Oh. Bishop b5. Knight a3. Wow. This is where we really get to see brilliance. Point of bishop e5. He could go to a4. The bishops are long-range pieces. He ends up back here. We have Lasker being Steinitz, being John Malkovich. Steinitzian, since he was like Steinitz's student. Bishop e8. Knight c2. Oh no. I gotta make sure I get this right. Knight e3, bishop e8, knight c2. Yes. Oh, now a really amazing move. This is just bizarre. This is just bizarre. Absolutely fantastic move by Lasker, which nobody would play. Bishop h5. I mean, is this like hope chess? Like you're just hoping the guy's gonna play. Maybe he'll play g4. You know, put his pawns on the wrong color. I mean, I think this is probably a mistake, objectively. The bishop actually it's holding up a4. So I think he should play something else. I mean, I would probably play h5 if I were Lasker here. h5 with the idea of h4. You can't stop h4. You know, even if like g3. Say I play h5 and white plays g3, then we play h4. You can't stop it. Bishops are good with rook pawns, as Larson, you know, and many others, Bofnik. Fuck, I'm good. Fuck me. Number one move of the engine is h5. God, I'm good. All right. h5. But Lasker instead played bishop h5, this weird, like, provocative move, allowing a4. That's really, like, the first move this game I didn't like by him. Weird move. Now he plays f5, which is reasonable. I mean, was bishop h5, like, necessary for some reason to play f5? Fine, f5, b5, and finally the queenside majority is moving, and then f4. Of course, this is just a different way of getting the pawns onto dark squares, which is not a bad achievement for black. f4. And now Steinitz has a difficult choice. No matter what he does here. If taking, I mean, the central pawns are like killing. If you take here, I take with the G pawn, and I have effectively like two connected passed pawns. I think white is lost. So Steinitz can't take, and black's threatening pawn takes pawn followed by d4 check. So basically, white doesn't have a lot of options. I mean, something like, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't look good. He has to play e4, and it's horrible. e4? Wow. It's not good. e4 takes. And now, all of our pawns are in the dark squares, coordinated with the light square bishop. This pawn is on a white square. It's a target. Black can create a passer here on the queen side. Whatever, king side. Whatever that is. Oh, man. So it's very good for black. Takes, knight a3. Okay. Takes, black's move. Bishop g6, my bad. Bishop g6. Knight a3. Threatening knight c4 check and taking on e5. So what are you going to do about it? There's nothing you can do about it. You have to take. You have to lose your e pawn. Check. The king goes to a strong square. Shit. He can't go to d5. Oh my gosh. That's messed up. But wait. If king d5... It's possible to play king d5. King d5, knight b4 check. King c5. But maybe the truth is that it's a little bit dangerous, and we're not getting a lot from it. So he doesn't go to d5. He goes back. But where? Do we go to e7, c7, d7? He plays to e7. King e7 feels very inactive there. Okay, g2 is hanging. Wow. Oh my god. So all this time, it doesn't matter. G2's hanging. Black is like winning a pawn. That's the point. I didn't even realize. He has to play g3. White has to play g3 and black has won a pawn. Jesus. Now, in order to defend this pawn, he has to give up his great bishop for the knight on d3. Bishop takes d3, king takes d3, and now knight c5 check is possible. And that's the game. Knight c5 check, guarding e4. Is black winning, though? Probably. King e2. And now here, there's still this outside pawn to deal with. I mean, black has two connectors. I would assume that that's winning. And I would just play king e6 here. But ultimately, it's not so easy. You know, maybe the outside pawn is going to draw away our knight, and it's hard to make progress. It is a cool endgame, Gypsy. No, it wasn't perpetual. It would have just been a knight d3 check takes. There was no perpetual. He could have put the king on c5. But it was simpler not to. But anyway, here is a strange moment, right? So what happens now after king e2? I'm expecting king e6. Is there... I mean, how serious is this a5 thing? I mean, I think there is a problem. Like, if you play king e6, white plays a5, and I'm a little bit concerned about one particular variation here. Like, whatever you want to do, white can play a6. With this super scary threat of b6. I mean, maybe it's not that bad. Like, another move that we can play is king d5. No, that's our king is here. Yeah. King e6. No, king e6, a5, king d5. For example. b6. I mean, it's complicated to say the least, right? This is very complicated. But instinctively, I would play king e6. But apparently, it's not best, so okay. Okay. Let me see. I mean, would it matter if I play king e6? King e6 is still winning, according to the engine, but a5 is complicated. So, Lasker plays this perfectly. Apparently, this is best. He just takes. He just takes, worsening his own structure. But, you know, potentially creating an outside pawn. I guess he just calculated. Yeah, he's winning a pawn. Take, take, take. And now he's trying knight c3 check. And when you play knight c3 check and you take on b5, you'll be defending against the threat of knight takes e5, knight c6 check, knight takes a7. So he simply counted and calculated that he's winning a second pawn. Takes, takes, takes. Knight takes a4. Knight takes e5. Knight c3 check. Now, how close is this king to those pawns? So this is close. King f3, knight takes b5, king g4. Oh shit. So now black has to play the right move. I would assume king f6. King f6. What did he play? He actually played king e6, oddly enough. Well, his a7 pawn's protected, so this is fine. King f6 allows a check at d7, but it doesn't matter. King e6. We're in the table base. Knight c6. a7's defended. So he just, he just dominates white, like king f6. Okay. We're still winning. King f6. King h5. Threatening king h6. Maybe. It may not be a big deal. What do we do? a6. What else? Get the pawn out of take. And now g4. Now black can move the knight. Knight d6. Very close, but it's a win. Knight d6. Knight b4. My bad. Knight d4. Something's wrong here. I think I skipped ahead. My bad. g4, knight d6. Don't tell me I messed up. No, it's okay. Knight b8, my bad. Knight b8. a5, knight d7, check. Sorry guys, my vision and I can't find my glasses. King e7. Knight, it's a horrible square for the king. Knight c5. Knight f7. Defending g5, defending the h6 square. Knight e4, threatening nothing. My bad. Knight a4. We make this main line. Knight a4 blockading. Now we got to move the king. Knight a4 blockading. King e6. It looks like. So knight c5 check. And black is winning. Knight c5 check. King d5. 2 pawns up in a knight endgame. Still a technical one, but nevertheless enough to win. Knight a4, now the king just marauds in there. Knight a4, king e5. Is this right? Knight c3. And then a very mean move, knight d6, because at king takes g5 we have knight e4 check. Knight d6, knight a4, dominating, knight e4, and now what? Knight a4, king e4? That doesn't make sense. Okay, knight e7 check, king e7, knight c5, knight f7, knight a4, king e6, knight c5 check, king d5, knight a4, king e5, knight c3, knight d6, knight a4, and I swear I can't read because I'm blind. There always could be a misprint. He plays king e4. How is that possible? King e4 doesn't make sense. Our knight is on d6. Is it on d6? Maybe it came back to f7. Okay, it must have come back to f7. Let me go back a second. Here. Knight d6. Knight f7, knight a4, king e6, knight c5 check, king d5. Here we are. Knight a4, king e5, knight c3, knight d6, we were there, clearly. Knight a4, and this is where I don't understand the next move. King e4. This wins? That is kind of a bizarre move. Wow. That's a weird way to play it. Allowing king takes g5, and black is still winning. It didn't seem like he had to do that. Plays king e4. I mean, I imagine white has to take the pawn on g5. It's so strange. He doesn't take it. He plays knight b6. Now king f4 defending the pawn. And the computer checks this out, but I still think that was a very weird sequence. Knight d5 check, king g3. Knight b6. King f3. And the pawn is hanging again. So I don't know what happened here. If white lost on time or resigned. I assume he lost on time. I mean, I have to assume he lost on time. Nobody's resigning here voluntarily. So let's play it out. Why he doesn't take the pawn on g5? Let's say he lost on time. It's the same as before. He can take the pawn. If he takes the pawn, we play knight f7 check. Guarding h6. Okay, fine. Why not king h5? Say king h5. Do we understand what happened here? King e4. This is crazy. For example, g5, king d4. So if g6, h6, king takes, king c5. I mean, it's very calculation-based. Knight a4 check. Lasker had to calculate all these weird endgames where he's only got one pawn left and he's still winning. Here, I don't know, knight b2 or something. Knight b2, knight e5 check. He literally calculated some lines like this. King d3. Knight d1. And the pawn clears. It's just such a weird way to play it where he has to drop that pawn on g5 and make sure that he can get there in time and stuff. Really crazy game. These last moves didn't actually happen, but I really couldn't believe that black has to lose that pawn on g5. I thought I was misreading the game score. When I saw this move king e4 the first time, I mean, black doesn't have to play that move. Something I don't understand. Again, why doesn't he just go here, leave the knight there, and just make progress with the king? For example, king d5, knight d7. Can't we just walk over to the queen side? It was a kind of weird way that Lasker chose to play this out, you know? He didn't need to drop this g5 pawn in order to win. Anyway, so the game ended on king f3. White resigns after king f3. g5 pawn hanging. White loses on time or resigns. I don't know. Crazy. All right. Anyway, record that for posterity. 1896. Computer verified everything that Black did. Black was always winning this endgame. Never made a serious mistake. So, all right. 2 pawns up. I mean, it should be winning, but I mean, you're not really 2 pawns up because this H pawn is like useless. It's almost like Black is only 1 pawn up, but 1 pawn up enough to win in night ending. Igor Maikov said, "Hello, welcome." That was Steinitz Emanuel Lasker, played in Moscow, 1896. Amazing game. If we put this in the opening, the analysis, dude, it's going to be like Lasker had a very strong CPL here. My opinion is that he played on a far superior level to Steinitz in this game. But we'll see what the engine thinks. Steinitz had 2 blunders, but look at that. Look at that graph. But look at the graph, and then look at, Steinitz won in the end game. But this is like a Magnus Carlsen type position, okay, guys? So it was perp after King D5. Okay, I could have been wrong. There was another check I missed or something. King D5, King C5. But what I want to point out is the fact that, like, this position, bro, this isn't a draw, The computer says, if you go by the graph, it's like, oh yeah, everything was fine. It's 0.2 advantage to Black. Magnus Carlsen is winning this position like 8 out of 10 times against any Grandmaster in the world with Black, as well as Emanuel Lasker. We cannot take this computer eval too seriously, because sometimes the smallest advantage, like in this case, -0.2, is in reality much bigger than you think. In a practical game, White is losing here, even if he's a Grandmaster, in most cases. Those knights. But as I said earlier, another moment I didn't like by Lasker was this weird Bishop H5 move. I would have 100% played H5. I'm sure he had his psychological reasons, for playing Bishop H5 or whatever. Anyway, let's see what we got here from you guys. I got a game from Magniac and a game from Move 11. So 2 subscribers have submitted games. But, one interesting note about that game by Lasker, you see his calculation. I mean, he's younger than Steinitz, of course. Maybe not that much, but yeah, actually he was quite a bit younger. But his calculation, I mean, if he was going to play the endgame in that way, that was pure calculation. He didn't have to drop the G5 pawn. He had to calculate it out. Anyway, okay, Magniac here is Black in the game he sent in. All right. That goes there. So we're Black. White plays E4. We play C5, Knight F3, Knight to C6, D4, C takes D4, Knight takes C4, G6, and then... All right. This is a very bad move by White. And Black could theoretically take with a D pawn and be only a tiny bit worse. Trying to think. I don't remember. Maybe I had this once in a game in 1996. Knight takes C6, B takes C6, Queen D4 they usually play. queen d4, and then unless you want to be like Anna Kramling's dad, Belen Lopez, who would do stuff like f6. It's normal to play knight f6, and if e5, then we play knight d5. This is a known line. It's not very good for white. This is the game I had in Lake Balaton in 1996. e6. It's nothing. It's better for black. This is John Donaldson's Accelerated Dragons. It's been known forever. Not a good line for white, but maybe queen d4 is the best try. Instead, white plays bishop c4. You know, oddly enough, sometimes knight c6 is played like a move later in these types of variations. And Mr. Slow, who was an old viewer on the stream, had submitted a lot of games to our stream and been a big contributor and a patron. He had shown one line. Yeah, where white plays bishop c4, but usually the knight takes c6 is later. So here, white has these ideas like queen f3, sort of primitive mating moves. And if we automatically play bishop g7, the question becomes, is queen f3 some sort of thing? You know. So here's the point. There's no knight on c3, which means that there's queen a5 check. So let's say I do bishop g7, which you did. If white plays queen f3, we just play knight f6. Because e5 is met by queen a5 check, taking the pawn. With check, by the way, if white plays knight c3. So it's very important that when you're black, you make sure this queen f3 type stuff isn't working. We don't want to play d6 necessarily if we don't have to. There are also cases where we want to put the queen on c7. Rather than push the pawn to d6, it may be better to put the queen on c7 to control the e5 square. I'm an expert in this, Accelerated Dragon. So now, okay, yeah, you see there's some examples of queen f3. There's Belen Lopez, who I just mentioned, oddly enough, being white in this position. White has lost all advantage. By the way, in the opening, with the tandem of knight takes c6 and bishop c4. And now another passive move, c3. So this was played twice by weaker players. And it's a typical coffee house kind of setup for white. Totally not dangerous. But if you play knight f6 and you allow e5... maybe white can get some sort of play. Acerbate had another one of our viewers had a couple of cool games where he did stuff like knight f6. If e5, of course we can play knight d5 and sack a pawn. For example, like knight d5, bishop takes d5, follow my chair. This is what this Turkish Grandmaster Tufidi did. C takes d5, queen d5. He just sacked a pawn. And there are various ways to do it. Okay, I'm sure even like rook b8, bishop b7 is good. But, you know, that's also not necessary. We could even play, it looks like we might even be able to play knight to g4, oddly enough. This was like Acerbate's solution. If knight to g4, yeah, I mean, this is unclear. Bishop takes, king takes, queen takes, bishop takes e5. But, I mean, still, I think black is better. Or queen takes g4, d5, the Acerbate special. And then again, wherever white goes, we take this pawn on c4. Still, there's like compensation. But whatever, you know. After c3, we have all the time in the world to do whatever we want to do. The simplest thing to do is probably play d6. But I think it's useful to have this in your arsenal as well. Queen c7, there's one issue, right? If white plays queen f3 and you play knight f6, I mean, you're keeping these pawns back so you have maximum flexibility, by the way. That's the Accelerated Dragon. Bishop f4, we never want to do this. This is bad. Okay, we have to do d6. Now, if he was castled, if he was castled, he would have this trick, e5 takes, bishop takes e5. And then on queen e5, it wouldn't be check, and white would have queen takes c6 check and takes on a8. But because white has played so slowly in this game, he doesn't have any of these tricks. So here I think this is a serious alternative. Anyway, knight f6 works, but I would prefer to just stop e5 with queen c7. All right, d6 is fine too. White does play e5, and you play knight g8. Yeah, so knight g8 is playable, but it's probably the lesser of the moves here. Both 2400 players here played knight to d5. They know this idea of sacking the pawn. This is white's good bishop. Falling out of the chair variation. Bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes d5, black has compensation. Again, I think this is fine too. Even if he gets to castle, you would have compensation. But as Tufidi did here, bishop a6, this position is... I don't know how white can be at 2100, to be honest. All right. Anyway, so you didn't know that, and you did knight g8, but now you're actually dangerously close to white having more than enough play. If queen f3, you have f6 or possibly f5, depending on the situation. I would prefer, I guess, f6. White instead plays bishop f4, and now, he's blocking his own pressure against f7 while defending e5. So here you have options. Now queen c7, not so attractive. I think white has queen e2. You played queen a5, and I think it's reasonable, but our bigger problem is, you got to get developed here. And the normal thing to do in accelerated dragons is to play f6. What we're hoping for is f6 takes, knight takes, but I want to point out, the possibility of things like this. Now, another option here that deserves serious consideration is knight h6. I had this game in a totally different kind of position where once my opponent played, maybe something along these lines, and I castled, but that doesn't make sense. What's he gonna do? Queen b3? Actually, knight h6 looks pretty good. I mean, he could get stuck out there, maybe h4, h5. So it's not optimal. You play queen a5. White defends with queen e2. This also protects b2. Now you did knight h6. If he plays b4, that's fine. You're going to have to move the queen again, but it's very weakening. Knight h6. And now the computer's probably going to be like h3 or something. I don't know. Castle. And then a typical game. So sometimes we have to go king g8 in order to give the knight a retreat square. You have f5. White plays a very bad move now, b4. This is very typical coffee house online game. b4 doesn't have much value. I think it worsens white's position. It's a move that people play reflexively. So I'm not exactly sure what you should play here. With queen on c7, you could be vulnerable to tactics, though I don't know exactly how. I would probably vote for this, despite the bishop on f4. I guess you might have an issue with queen d2. So, all right, you went to d8. This feels too passive, though. You know, I don't think we can go to d8. I mean, you're blocking your rooks. I think it's too much. I mean, maybe b6. Yeah, he can go a4, a5. You can also play a5 yourself. So I think this is too passive. 92, and now you break out with d5. So probably he makes a mistake here. He has to play rook d1. He has to keep you down. Especially to exploit the undevelopment with queen d8. 92 is too routine. And now after d5, you're back. You're back, and you got away with murder, you know, in a way. So I think it was sketchy there. I just want to get castled. Yeah, well, that's a good thing to do. If he takes, he makes this a problem. So he plays bishop b3. And now, well, I think we can say you're probably not worse anymore. After kind of messing up with knight g8 and queen d8 and stuff. We still have problems with our knight on h6. So f6 is a very standard idea. You also can play knight f5. I don't see your knight getting trapped by like g4, but it is possible. For example, here g4, knight h4, bishop g5. That does look like a problem. So we have to be cautious about putting the knight on f5 too early. I mean, also f6, very natural move, but I think that... I mean, I think f6 is probably the move, but we have to calculate, you know, this. This is probably a move, but white has to be careful. And now we have a square there. The pawn's kind of overextended. I think you're okay. If f6, for example, knight f3, Nimzovitchian type position for white, you could play bishop g4, provoking him on e5. But I think you're okay now. Knight f5, maybe not the best. To me, it looks like he's got g4. Why is g4 not good here for white? Seriously, knight h6? You can just go back. And you have this other weird move, bishop h6, but I don't think Bobby Fischer's going to play that. Trading the darks for bishops kind of weakens your king. I don't like knight f5. Yeah, he could have done g4. Knight f3, now a5. a5 is like a sort of cheapo. Cheapo bishop a6 idea. I'm concerned about your knight on f5, though, because it's really, like, borderline getting trapped now. You have to consider, like, seriously maybe playing f6 to attack e5 and therefore destroy the pawn on e5 and thereby get a square for your knight. You know, if g4, pawn takes e5, let's say it's complicated, you could be in trouble here because of c6. So this has to be calculated. But you can't just play with your knight on f5. And I don't like playing h5. You can't just blindly go forward with your knight on f5 without this g4 being addressed here. g4 is going to be a problem. I mean, and honestly, like, there's some question as to whether white could play it right away. I guess you do have knight h6. You still have knight h6. You still have knight h6. Let's say, like, you play knight h6 and he goes h3. Now he's threatening to trap your knight for real with a queen move like queen e3, queen d2. Yes, I know you intend to play bishop a6. But, for example, if you play it right away, he has a c4 in between move. I'm not sure what's going on. So, I mean, be careful about this knight on f5. a3, bishop a6, c4, and this may not be that bad for white. I mean, he is, in a sense, like destroying your center at d5. Now, you gave up your central strong point at d5, possibly based on tactics with knight d4. But this is huge because you get the access to the d4 square. So a3 is sketchy. I mean, he didn't have to play a3. There's no reason he has to play a3 here. You're not threatening anything, necessarily. You're threatening bishop a6, but he always has c4. So he should have played g4, right? I guess. Or something else. Yeah, the computer says queen d2, threatening g4 and getting out of the bishop a6. And white is better. So you're lucky he played a3. After this, yes. Here, yes. Yes. And yes. And what is the final resolution? Knight d4, queen d4, bishop a6, queen takes f4, attacking e5, attacking b4. Are you winning? Or is it just like equal? To be perfectly honest, I don't think you really deserve to win necessarily. He hung an acerbate mate. Okay. White now played bishop e7. You played rook b8. He plays bishop takes c6. And the game should be a draw. After bishop takes e5, white has to play g3. It's 5 pawns each. And despite the opposite color bishops, it's probably a draw. Still some play left, but probably a draw. But he hung mate in 1 with queen takes h2 check. Acerbate would have loved this game if he was still here. If I didn't know better, I would think you were Acerbate. To be honest. All right. The ghost of Acerbate is here with us. Then Move 11 submitted a game with Andrei Kovalev. And where is this game from? How can I see the info on this game? Andrei Kovalev. Andrei Kovalev is the old Belarusian grandmaster, right? Who I've played. What's the name of the younger Kovalev? I guess they're both Belarusian. But there's a younger one who's like a very, very strong 2600. In any case, I guess this is an older game. I saw the... Wait, here it is. Okay. Submitting game for review? But I mean, dude, get PGN. So this was played where? Alushta Open. Where is Alushta? Is it in Russia or Belarusia? I assumed it was Russia. What does that say? 2003? Well, if it's 2003, it's probably the older Kovalev. He's still floating around somewhere. He was here. He had a birthday recently, or maybe he was just mentioned in a post I saw on Facebook. Some Soviet chess. Old Soviet chess thing. He's like a 70-year-old. He's got to be around 70. I mean, getting close to 70. Late 60s, at least. So Kovalev is white. We're going to flip the board. And it's an accelerated dragon. E4, C5, knight f3, another one. G6, D4, C takes D4, queen takes D4, knight F6, E5, knight C6, queen A4. You know, It's interesting here, something that surprises me. Oddly, I always thought that Queen F4 was more common than Queen A4. But maybe there's some flaw with Queen F4. I mean, the fact that black can play like Knight H5. I had this position on my chess table outside the office, literally the other day, and I like to just put positions on the board. And this is the position on the board the other day. There's another. That's now we figured out the mystery. It's Vladislav Kovalev is the young one. Okay, so there's the possibility of Knight H5. This is a separate possibility. It's not necessarily good, but it's an additional option that black has if white plays Queen F4. But I would think in most cases it's going to transpose, with the exception of, stop that please, Queen A4, Queen A4. Now, you can play Knight G8 if you want to. This is a very weird move. But Knight D5, and now Queen E4, main line, but this is the other option, which is more modern. Queen E4, I still believe, is probably better objectively, but it's very close. Okay, so he plays Queen E4, and then Knight on DB4 was played. So I had this position with black against Aronian in a Blitz game in Spain like 25 years ago. I lost. I also played Knight on DB4, which was the standard move for many, many years. But it was funny because I think like Levon didn't know, well, we didn't know the best move back then. It was like 1998. I played this against Aronian, and then he did another line. So he just did something routine like C3. I got a good game after D5. Aronian goes back. I played Knight A6. And I knew this position was supposed to be good for black, but I lost anyway against Levon. The young Aronian, who was just an IM at the time when I played him in 1998. Anyways, go back to 1998, then go forward to 2003. I had this position on the board again with black against the young Marcel Martinez, who's an IM from Miami, originally from Cuba, and I lost a horrible game with black against Marcel in the Bishop E5 line because I didn't know what I was doing. I think it was this line, which is newer. But anywho, that's the feature of today's game. So I did A6. Oh no, I did. So I did what? No, I did what Kovalev's. I repeated what Kovalev's. Oh, that's crazy. This game was played when? This game was played in 2003. My game was played in 2003 against Martinez. You know, it could have been 2002, but I think it was 2003. I'm pretty sure. It was Foxwoods Open 2003. It was like the last round. And I lost to Marcel really badly here in this line. I didn't know it. So, but the bottom line is that black shouldn't play Knight B4. I always thought it was good for black. But it turns out that it's probably not so good. There's even E6, but I don't think that's really trustworthy. So it's a question of whether black should play knight c7 or knight b6, objectively. They're both playable. I've had games in both. We've looked at this with Move 11, who submitted this game. Both of these moves are okay. You know, I think my latest move was knight b6. But it's a debatable position where both moves are possible. This move is problematic because of bishop e5, which I learned the hard way against Marcel. And what happened in this game happened to me. Queen a5. I was tired. It was the last round of Foxwoods. I don't remember. Maybe it was the tournament where I wasn't really there and I was like playing poker and stuff. Knight c3, d5. And Martinez just knew this, you know. Pawn takes d6, bishop f5. But it wasn't. He didn't play the same as Kovalev did here. Marcel played queen e5. If I'm not mistaken, he played queen e5, which is very strong. And he played it instantly. So this is all like preparation. He knew that I would probably play the accelerated dragon. He prepared the whole line, and I was baked. I didn't know the theory. I was trying to figure it out over the board. So queen e5 is probably best. This whole line shouldn't be played for black. Well, I know that now. You know, I've played both. I played this. I used to play this. And it's okay, but I had this game with this Hungarian kid in the Hungarian Team Championship like 12 years ago, maybe more. I got a perfect game and then I like blundered and lost in one move or something. I don't remember. I ruined my position in one move. I had a really good opening after knight b6. Black is okay. Don't do this. You know, that's the lesson here. Bishop e5 is good for white. Queen a5, knight c3, and now black is in big trouble. But is there another wave that black can play besides d5? Bishop g7 is also bad. Bishop g7. But maybe it's less bad? I don't know. Even Margir Peterson got this position as recently as 1999. Wow, Gusenov lost with black here against Satovsky in 2007. 2007, are you kidding me? I thought I was an idiot to play this line in 2003. This is unbelievable. I mean, these people are playing this like bad line as late as 2006, 2007. Heinz Worthenson, some Swiss guy. Shocking to see Gusenov play it in 2007. It's already an established grandmaster. Peterson maybe like a retired grandmaster in 1999. I could see. But anyways, I felt bad about not knowing what I was doing in 2003. So d5, and now black has to be very careful. E takes d6, bishop f5. Queen e5 is, I don't know if my game's in the database or not. There it is, yeah. So I'm wrong. Wow, okay. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. So this was 2005. I forgot that I went back. I said 2003, but it wasn't 2003. It was 2005. And I had already been here in Hungary, living here for like a year. And I went back and played that tournament. But you guys got to see something here. If you look at the opening explorer, if you guys see the screen, on the right, sorry I was wrong about the year of my game. What I didn't know is this Cuban guy, Blas Lugo, had a game against Wojtkiewicz in 2004. And you'll note, Blas Lugo, Wojtkiewicz, 2004, November. Marcel Martinez versus me, March 2005. Bad luck, you know. Marcel and Blas Lugo and another IM from Miami, from Cuba, Miami, Cuba, Lake America, which borders the Gulf of America. And anyways, so Marcel knew it all because of Blas Lugo's game with Wojtkiewicz, which I didn't know about. So it was terrible luck for me. Anyway, not to make excuses, but that's the line. I got blown away. But anyways, bishop takes c6 isn't quite as good, I assume. It looks like black can play knight takes c6. So Kovalev has another game here. In the exact same tournament, he lost in the same line where black played knight takes c6. This is nothing for white. This is a huge mistake. Apparently, there are other moves here. d7 check. That's interesting. Black played king d8. Oh my god, black is better after king d8. Crazy. They had analyzed this with engines, man. I mean, I was already in the engine. 2003, the computers were already very strong. You know, I'm like, oh, knight takes c2 check. Okay, whatever. King e2. Castle's queenside. This is my game. Did I didn't castle queenside? Didn't I play this? It has to be. Where's the game? What am I getting wrong here? Well, maybe I castled queenside right away. I castled queenside right away. And that's the same as Wojtkiewicz did. Notice that Wojtkiewicz, the lucky bastard, he's actually not lucky because he's dead. But he was a friend of mine, sort of. And he's the only one who drew this position somehow, miraculously, against Blas Lugo. But Wojo was still very strong by 2004. Okay. Anyways, so this is a bad move. Bishop takes c6. Black should play knight takes c6. Instead, he plays b takes c6. White plays d7 check. And now, I think I'm missing the point here. Missing the bus. I'm going to ask a stupid question, but inquiring minds want to know. Can black play bishop takes d7? Yeah, I mean, in fact, you know, you got to admit, this is scary, bro. And black went on to lose the game. I mean, bishop takes d7. Is this so bad for black? I don't really understand. So, I mean, this is scary. d7 check, king d8. Well, you're never going to be completely safe with your king on d8. Black must have assumed, you know, he's winning because he's going to win material with the fork on c2. But there's more to life than material. Queen c4, check, king e2. And then we realized there's something funny going on here because Kovalev wasn't the first to play this position. There's a Polish master, Radek Szluka, who already had this exact position back in 1999. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather be white. So Kovalev's opponent doesn't take the rook. Taking the rook leads to loss of game, apparently, after knight d4. What happened in the game from 1999? So black has an improvement here now. Lots of improvements here. After everything was said and done, Anna Prienko's move wasn't best, although it's the most natural. Bishop g7, even rook b8 and a simple knight before are possible too. So really tragic loss for black. As seems common in this line. Bishop g7. Rook d1. Rook b8. Knight g5. That's a very strong looking move. Knight g5. Astrobate approved. Bishop f4. Rook takes b2. And now he just walks away with king f1. And your king is in the middle. Hello. Hello. So we're going to see something elegant here. White sacrifices a piece. Bishop takes c3. Oh my god. I got to admit, this is pretty crazy, dude. Now I understand why Move 11 sent this game in. This is a mind-blowing position. King g1 is White's only winning move. Well, he avoids the exchange of queens. Simple. It's easy peasy. King g1 is one of the only moves that avoids the exchange of queens. You could play queen takes f7. Just for kicks and giggles, what happens on queen takes f7? Check, knight takes a1. We're losing too much material. So a4 was possible. That's the other way to prevent the exchange of queens. So Kovalev just commonly plays king g1. And now his opponent plays rook b6. So it's weird. The engine says that like White's winning, and then it changes its mind. After king g1, it suddenly thinks black is okay. What? I thought it was changing its mind there. King g1. No, it still thinks White's winning. Okay. Rook b6. Rook b1. Queen d5, trying to trade queens. Dropping a piece, though. So what is black going to do with his king in the middle of the board and everything falling apart? He had to play rook takes rook first. Shockingly. That's crazy, right? Rook takes rook, rook takes rook, queen d5, allowing rook b8 check. And you're okay after that. Guess what? Rook's protected on h8. But White is still probably winning with queen takes c3. Well, anyway, you get what you pay for with your king on d8. I'm telling you, there's no way I'm playing that move. I mean, why not just take the bishop on d7? I don't understand, you know? This is totally playable. Black is okay. I mean, okay, maybe there's some technical problem. Castles, bishop g7, bishop g5, castles. Okay, we have to sacrifice a pawn. I mean, big deal. You know, how bad can it be? So anyway, interesting game, Move 11. Thank you for sharing that. What else we got? Anything? Any other games you guys would like to share with me? Did I miss something from someone? We got Mr. Rollinson. We got Move 11. Any other subscribers? Anyone like to subscribe or donate? Gypsy999, it tipped $10. I didn't even catch it, man. I'm sorry. You gave us $10. Great lecture analysis. I had follows from Otriel Chess GM as well as Chessmaster High. Sorry, guys, I was like focused on the games. So Bishop takes e7, Rook b8 at the end there, by the way, defending b4. Move 11, what was your theme with this game, though? You know, what was your question? I mean, it's a nice game. It's cute. Was there any real special meaning to it? Did you submit a game for review? Okay, nothing special, maybe? Looking at the line from black side, yeah, I figured. That I understood. But, you know, I still don't think that knight b4... you think that knight b4 might be worth playing it? But what do you do? You know, how do you play it? How are you playing knight d4? After bishop e5, what are you going to do? I'm going to play a6. I guess this is the only way to play it. I don't think we should go this way. I mean, this queen a5 it can't be good. You can play bishop g7 like that other game we saw. White has a very good score after a3. White hasn't lost a single game. But I don't see any reason to play this. You know, I really think that black should play one of the other moves. The engine confidently thinks knight b6. When I might have been the first person to play knight b6. I'm not sure. Let us check the database. 2009? My game was like 2009, 2010. So it looks like Perelstein and I played it at approximately the same time, independently of one another. I can tell you for certain that I didn't play it because I had seen anyone else play it. It was a suggestion of the engine back in 2009 or whenever. I just can't place the name of the guy who I played it against. It's a Hungarian FM. I think he's an FM. He's not even an IM, but he was a good FM. Dangerous, but he drinks too much or something like that. So, interestingly enough, yeah, no, I mean, I knew knight c7 was recommended in most sources. See the older games here, 2001, 2006. Eingorn recently died. 2007, Gawain Jones. But I don't know when I first played it. It's unclear. It was in Peshderjabet, playing for my team. It couldn't have been earlier than 2008. It could have been 2009, 2010. But in any case, I didn't play this move because Perelstein or some other player had played it. I was one of the first. There's a game here, Shabala, Perelstein from 2009. Perelstein and I are like good and evil offspring. We're like the good and evil offspring of Gigiashvili. Polar opposites. Anyway, he spawned two hyper-accelerated dragon players. So anyways, you're sending me another game? Here's another Sicilian where I put the bishop on g4. All right, we'll do this one last game, then I'm going to go. Double analysis for Mr. Rowlandson. So, oh my god, I'm so hungry. Here, take, study. All right, guys, this will be our last game for today. While we're on the theme of Sicilian, check your PayPal afterwards. Wow. All right, well, we might have had an anonymous donation. Also, Chess Lizard has subscribed now. Chess Zebra. You got the tip jar, link, wrong. Well, that's always good. You gave it to my tip jar or something instead of to the slush fund, the slush fund. We have a 2026 slush fund. I am going to play one tournament before the end of the year, but I cannot announce it due to stalkers. Just kidding. I'm not going to play in the World Senior. Disappointing, but I don't want to go Serbia. So, thank you for the donations, guys. White plays e4, we play Sicilian, white plays d3. This move should not be underestimated. It's not bad, but white forfeits his opening advantage. Knight to c6. Okay, you don't have to play knight to c6, necessarily. I just want to mention the fact that a lot of people play knight to c6 automatically. You know, there may be some scenarios where white does like c3 and d4 later. But this is certainly like the most common move. He's already played d3, so we're not super worried about like c3 and d4, but it's still a thing that can happen. White played knight c3, okay. And now g6. Probably the best move. It's also possible to play any number of things. Knight f6, e6, whatever you're comfortable with. g6, and now a very strange move by your opponent. There was this guy I knew who was a very strong master from Belarusia who patented this all the time. It's a lesser-known closed Sicilian line. I think even Nigel Short has played this. But he would just do bishop e3 right away, queen d2. That's a thing. That's a real line. This is not. This is weird. What's he going to do? Queen c1? Okay, fine. Like a more passive version of the same thing? It's kind of dumb, but whatever. Okay. Bishop g7. Yeah, so here we could be Vasily Smyslov, play queen c1, rook b1, whatever, be a freak, play knight d1, okay, whatever. It's like a worse version of bishop e3 with the queen buried on c1. I suppose that makes some sense. It would be, or maybe rook b1 right away, intending to play queen c1 and bishop h6. It's not that ridiculous. Okay, bishop e2. Still not ridiculous. White might plan some kind of h4, h5 type crap. You've got to be prepared. Now, normally what you want to do here is be flexible, not committal, hyper-modern. You could play b5. I just want to throw this out there. But we have to evaluate what the consequences of that would be. Like knight takes b5, bishop takes b2. For example, bishop c3. I don't know, that's probably unsound, but let's just check it. Bishop takes, queen takes, f6 or something. You're up the exchange. All right. So, realistically, if bishop takes b2, rook b1, bishop g7, and you want a pawn. Well, actually, no, you didn't win a pawn. You traded pawns. Rook b1, bishop g7. You're probably okay. Having said that, b5 is possible, but it's not necessary to go b5 right away. You could also play rook b8. a4 playing on your side of the board isn't favorable for white necessarily. But there's no obligation to do that. If you want to play for b4, b5, you don't have to do that right away. But, I think the important question is, like, how do you intend to set up your king side? Do you intend to play e6 or e5 and knight e7, or do you intend to play your knight to f6? Well, the good news is he doesn't have, like, bishop h6. So if you play knight f6 as you did, if he plays queen c1 now, do you want to play into bishop h6? Because Yasser Seirawan would like to have a word with you. It's not as dangerous as bishop e3, queen e2, because white could possibly castle queenside in those type of lines that get very sharp. But still, I think you ought to consider moves like h6. I call it the Yasser method. Rather than just castle into this trading off of your dragon bishop, I think we might want to consider not castling or playing h6. Anyways, he plays knight f3, so there's no problem. But you're committing yourself to castling kingside when it's not necessary. We've got to ask white, what is he doing? Is he going to castle kingside? Okay, fine. If he's going to castle kingside, we're going to castle kingside. Why commit, though? You don't have to castle. You can play just like d6. Moses and Martic, 2 IMs, 2 games with d6. And they have similar names. One has 6 letters, one has 5. But they both start with M. But knight f3, again, I don't see this being necessary. Now you're giving him a chance to play like some kind of caveman stuff with h4. Or queen c1. And I think that's a mistake. To commit is a mistake. You should be flexible. Always be as flexible as possible. Flexibility can only be beneficial. It can't be, not beneficial. Flexibility is always a good thing. The more flexible you are, the better. Why commit to castling? If you don't want to commit to castling, play d5. d5 is a good move. Maybe this is even best, actually. But you have to be comfortable with the structure. He's playing lame setup. What is white doing? Bishop d2, bishop e2. Chigorin would probably play d5 if you showed them this position 100 years ago. Doesn't mean it's easy to play. I'm just saying, even d5 is a serious move. Castles isn't a mistake, but it's unnecessarily inflexible. So he just castles. He doesn't call you on it. And then you play d5. You did play like Steinitz, excuse me. You did play like Chigorin, challenging him in the center. But this is a stylistic choice. It's more flexible. Well, not more flexible. Okay, maybe more flexible. Also more reserved to play like d6. Enrique or Enrique. 1890 loses to a 2602. Shocking, but not unheard of. The great Enrique Mecking. Like William Lombardi, he found the church. He's still alive, right? So, castles, d5. I like playing d6 because there's more tension, a little more tension. Here, good move though. Can't push. Pushing is bad. So it's either take or maintain the tension. He maintains the tension with queen c1, defending b2. I mean, the computer is probably going to go for d4 and say you have a huge advantage, but that doesn't mean that everybody should play that way. You have to be comfortable with the structure. It's entirely possible knight b5 is white's best move. It's entirely possible knight b1 is white's best move. Knight a4, probably not. Knight d1 is ugly. It might get out on f2. And I would have a hard time deciding what to play here with white. I don't know. It's a tough call. If knight b1, he might be able to play a4, knight a3, knight c4, something like that. So he plays knight d1. And now you played, in my opinion, a really weird move. Chess, there's a lot to look at here, strategically speaking. Black is better, you have more space, but what do you do, right? What do you do? I mean, you have the c4 break. It's a King's Indian now. c4 right away deserves consideration. This is a shit show. White is like strategically in big trouble, right? If he pushes, that's also a shit show. I mean, you could take on d3. If he takes on f6, you take on e2. Anyways, c4 is clearly an option. But that's the strategic idea. That's the break that we want to make in the King's Indian type structure. He has no special answer here. Black is just better. Plus 0.5. c4 is very strong. It's not forced. It's not forced, but you can play more patiently. I don't know. Knight d7. Whatever you want. I think keeping the pressure on e4 though makes sense. There's a lot of things you can play. Rook b8. I probably wouldn't play b5 because of a4. This is going to break up your structure because you can't play a6 takes, and your rook hanging on a8. So b5 supporting c4 is not necessary. I would play c4. A lot of options. This move I don't love. It's kind of irrelevant. This has nothing really to do with the position. This is a great piece. The same guy who taught me that bishop e3 weird closed Sicilian taught me that this piece is developed from its original square. This is very important. By the way, it's a King's Indian. You can play a5, a4. I know that it's Sicilian, but its structure is a King's Indian. We have this block center. Queen pawn game. Your piece is developed. It has a good diagonal. It's a great piece. It has a lot of potential. It's my favorite piece. We're going to come up with a name, maybe America, Captain America, something like that. A5, A4, Rook A6. Seriously, I don't know where it's going to end up. But Bishop G4, not impressed by this move. Doesn't really do anything. Do you really want to trade off your light square bishop? He has a crappy bishop. But I'm not sure that justifies trading bishop takes f3 or something. I don't also think that white should play h3. If I were white, I would probably consider king h1. Outside the box. King h1 with the idea of knight g1. Because Steinitz told me that it's good to retreat all your pieces to the back rank. But if you have a choice, right, between like what constructive moves to make, yeah, most people are going to play h3, but this is not really a constructive move for white. He weakens his king side, and you can do whatever you want to do. You can trade or you can go back. But what is he really gaining with h3? He's just making a move because it's a move. I think you should probably, in a vacuum, you should probably go back. This gets hit by knight to g5, and then f4, and then white has something going on. You should probably play, or at least consider playing bishop d7 at this point. Because it's semi-developed. It could come back. It could come back here. e5 is not a real threat. You have like rook c8 and a c-file stuff there. This is lazy move syndrome. Bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3. So you gave up your bishop for a knight, and you're probably still not worse. But notwithstanding the fact that you've eased this guy's cramp a little bit. He's cramped. You're trading pieces. That helps him. Now, his bishop is bad, but it doesn't have to stay bad the whole game. He can play Bobby Fischer style, g3, bishop g2. This reminds me a lot of how Fischer lost, by the way, some King's Indian attacks that I've talked about with white against Kyrgios and stuff. Caro-Kann, actually. That bishop could end up being a ghost piece that never does anything. I mean, it's possible that black is still better. But I think you've thrown away a lot of your advantage. This is a really bad move. I don't know what you should do. I think you have a few options. I mean, obviously e5 is an option. Rook c8 is an option. c4 is an option, but we're bordering on it being too late. Maybe it still works. Like takes 95. Now you're talking, it looks like. So you played knight e5, he plays bishop e2, obviously. And then f4's coming, and this guy's got some chances now. He's gonna roll you up in a pawn storm on the king side. And his bishops are starting to play. So I think here could be your last chance to play c4. This is the most interesting move in this position. Here, this. And the point is, when he plays f4, you have the in-between move, pawn takes pawn, which we looked at before. Still, white has a decent position, I think. But look, for example, takes, Rook c8, another tempo. His queen has to go to this awful square, right? Look at his pieces. And now you retreat back wherever. Of course, we look for tactics. I mean, there might be a tactic. You could have some crazy ass shit like knight takes e4, takes d3. It probably doesn't work. But again, it almost works. We need to look at everything that you've got. Like John Fedorovich told me, think a lot, think about all you got. That's the important thing. You calculate all possibilities tactically. And if nothing works, then you go back. I mean, even this crazy move has to be considered for a moment at least. So bishop e2. Now you played e6. I'm not certain what e6 has to do with the price of oil in Saudi Arabia. You want to like answer f5 with pawn takes f5? Okay. Maybe there's some logic to that. If f5, we take e takes f5 or something. The engine doesn't like it. c4 is the best move. It's my second best. I picked out h5 today, which Lasker missed, the best move in the endgame. Now I saw c4, also the best move. e6, f. I'm good with pawn moves. I'm good with pawns. f4. Which knight square do you want to go to? Knight c6 is more forward. All right. And then bishop f3. Well, guess what? The guy's got a bishop. And it's got game. So here, Paul Keres Fisher theme from the Caro-Kann is that e5 thing. Maybe when everything's said and done, we can still... I don't know. We can try to hold the dark squares. So if he takes, we have ironclad control of e5. What'd you say? d5, I mean? d4 now? What are you talking about? Sorry? I don't get what Chesskeeper's talking about. d4 now. Is that some old... It must be some ancient variation. This needs to be seriously considered. I'm a little afraid of f5, which is thematic. This is very thematic. We have pawn takes f5, pawn takes f5. This bishop is great. There are these themes still. This is insane. It's a King's Indian. It's brutal. This could be total chaos. After something like g4, pawn takes pawn, and coming to the c-file, sacrifices of e4. I mean, tumbled down, pawn sacrifices all over the place. The other pawn coming there. I don't know. Anything could happen. It could get very, very sharp. But e5 is a solid choice. Now, I really don't like queen c7. It's a very routine move. And so I think my advice to you as a player is to try to go beyond the routine. Strive to go beyond the routine, particularly with pawn moves. Now this bishop is good, and it's not going to change. You're not going to be able to shut it down. Paul Keres beat Fischer in 2 Caro-Kanns, where the structure arose, where Fischer-Bobby has the bishop pair, but one of them is bad. White is not better here, despite having the bishop pair, right? If you think that white is better here, you need to gain an appreciation for bad bishop, what it really means, space advantage. Let's see what the evaluation is by the computer. Negative 0.6. People who overvalue the bishop pair are prevalent, That's why e5 is an important move. But I still think that white shouldn't take. White could play g3. Keep attention. This is still bad. With f5, he has a pawn storm. And that's not a joke. And that's where things would get really sharp. Now white is better. So I said g takes f. And the computer laughs in my face. And I said c4. And now the engine laughs in my face. Holy shit. Bishop takes c6. What bad bishop? Check this out. This is computer number 1 line. There goes the c file pressure. Bishop takes c6. Pawn takes c6. Knight f2. Triple exclam. White is +2 in this position. +2. Chigorin is like looking down from wherever he is. But there was a better try. This crazy sack e4. So anyways, f5 is dangerous. So my move e5, it may be too late, ultimately. The truth is that it is too late. Too little, too late. e5 is too late. e6 was too hesitant. You know, by the way, when you played e6, okay, your knight was on e5. There's nothing you could do. You know, you could have played knight c6 right away. White plays f4. And again, you could play e5, but it's safer to play something like c4. You know what this is? It's actually a Dutch. Can you believe that? But it's not that uncommon for the close Sicilian to become a Dutch. This is a Dutch. White is playing the Dutch. A lot of close Sicilians become birds openings, essentially. All right. So, queen c7, e5. And now? Well, okay. Fall out of my chair variation. We've seen a lot of that today. It's a great knight on d5, but the bishop on f3 is good now. It's not a bad bishop anymore. It's important to realize that. White doesn't have any... I mean, actually, the other bishop is blocked by this pawn in f4. If any bishop is bad, now the d2 bishop's bad, because he's got f4, e5 structure. They've, like, switched, essentially. But this is still not a bad piece. He doesn't have a bad bishop. Nobody has a bad bishop here. The worst piece on the board is the knight on d1, but that's getting in with knight f2 now and knight e4. So there are no bad pieces in this position. And that's Bobby Fischer. That was Bobby Fischer's specialty, by the way. Not having bad pieces. He got a bad piece against Kyrgios. He learned his lesson. Knight f2. Yeah, I mean, you never ever understood the idea to play for c4 in this game. You never ever even attempted to get it in. Rook d8, a purely defensive move, knight e4. And I think at this point we're ready to sack the exchange on d6. You played b6. Okay. We don't have to sack the exchange, but I just want to say that you need to be aware of the fact that this might not be that bad. You get a pawn. You have a good structure. You have no bad pieces. There are no open files. I think that black has almost enough compensation. Half a pawn advantage to white. Damn, I'm good. Exactly 0.5. You guys think I'm cheating. You probably think I'm cheating. I have like my phone here. I evaluated this position down to 0.1 accuracy. Exactly. White is a little better, but you got to consider sacking exchange. Having said that, right, it doesn't mean you have to panic and sack the exchange. Just know that it's an option. You can also trade his knight off with a knight of your own, like knight e7, knight c8, but it's passive. So instead you try to uproot him with f6. The problem is he just takes. yes, you solve the problem of the knight on d6, but you go from one problem to a different problem. You're not curing your disease, you're just getting a different disease. It's like trading one disease for another. You're going from the frying pan into the I don't know, air fryer here. You just have different problems now after f6. He should just take. And now he has... I mean, I could be wrong, but I think he has 94. It's not like you're lost. Again, considering sacking the exchange. But this particular position, now your structure is damaged. You know, this is going to count for something. So white plays rook e1. Does he have anything better? No, to be honest, to be like super honest here, you're like in that range where you're only like half a pawn worse or something. Let's see. The engine wants to play g4, queen e1. These are very typical Dutch moves. I would think like even a3 would be in the mix to control the b4 square. Even c3. So knight d6 is like giving you this f6 counterplay. And he should have just taken, probably. Plays rook e1. You take. He takes. You take. But now his f3 bishop is under attack. So he's really, like, in trouble now. He lost the whole pawn. He has to take on d5, it looks like. Then his knight is almost trapped. So he basically just blew the whole game in one move. After rook e1, he's basically, like, lost. Wow. Yeah, he just lost the game in one move, effectively. But you do have enough counterplay now, after f6. So it took 2 mistakes for white to lose the game. Play knight d6 prematurely, and then rook e1. He's got no way to save himself now. Double threat. Knight c4, and it's over. Yeah, that's just a disaster. He has no king. All right, guys, I got to go. It was fun today. I was in a good mood. Nice to see you all. I got to go get dinner. I'll be back tomorrow with some Blitz around 1 p.m. And talk to you then. Don't forget, Sunday Simul. Thanks for the donations. Sunday Classical Simul every week at 7 p.m. CEST. Thanks so much for subscribing. Move 11 gifted a tier 1 sub to King's Indian Defense. So next week, he can submit a game as well. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody. Don't forget, Sunday Simul, Friday Blitz. Ha 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 ha. Bye-bye.